All right. Sit down. Okay, I'll start for the crowd that is in the house. Thank you. So today I'm going to talk about the art and science of unmanned systems, or the robots are coming. They are coming, right? We've heard yesterday there was a lot of scaremongering in a way. I was not very happy with the FAA presentation, especially because it sort of highlighted some of the issues of basically remotely controlled quadcopters being used for commercial applications and applying that to a whole industry in a very sort of indiscriminate fashion. The problem I see is, multifold, as we all know, and it has a lot to do with education. The thing is that we are being, governed and controlled by an industry, yes, that has an incredible sort of set of histories and standards, but we know very little about our own history of the unmanned systems field and robotics in general, and how that actually plays into the understanding of what our field and industry in a way is and what the uses are. So this is a drone, right? I'm one of those people who are very allergic to the term drone being applied to robotic systems. A drone is a male bee. It has a lot of interesting functions. It's supposedly really lazy too. And they die very quickly, the drones. It's not a very good term if you want biomimicry to sort of play with your definitions. A drone is not the best of the terms. So here's the family, the worker. There's actually a worker. I'd rather, it would be the worker robots, right? The queen robots. That wouldn't be so bad. This industry sorely needs female participation, as we all know. And it shows both in regulations and in sort of atmosphere. And then there's the drone, the drone. Now we have, the term has its merits. The master of all disguises. Doug Davis is not here anymore, right? Too bad. You see, that's what happens when you talk on the second day. Is now, of course, working for Northrop. But before, he was our regulator for years, or the sort of the go-to person for unmanned systems at the FAA. And I think the master of many disguises sort of defines very well the situation we found ourselves in, where there is a lot of fog, both on a legislative level and also on the regulatory level, being created all the time, because nobody really wants to take responsibility. Everybody is really, really afraid that, these things that we know very well from, the movie doesn't work anymore, perfect. I actually know why. The USB stick is not in anymore. So if you can bring me the stick up, I suspected this will happen, of course. Just put it in. I'll just, oh, even better, look at this, what happened now? It says it's not readable by this computer. Okay, here we are. Is Patrick here? I see my slides here nicely on the screen, but not on that one. Oh. No. Okay.
There.
Oh, there was something?
Yeah. Give it a little time to load off the stick.
It's too late now. It doesn't matter. Oh, this is something else. Yeah, no, it worked before, but now it doesn't. So there you go. Now my whole screen is in half. That's not my fault. I don't know what happened. This all fine here.
Yeah, well.
We have to just reset the projector. Maybe swap displays. What will happen here? No, let me see.
We're swapping it out.
No.
No. We're on that slide there.
Let's just forget about that slide. We won't use it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's half of my screen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can shut it down. And we
Wait.
can restart
Maybe
it.
it's something. No, this is just notes. Maybe just the projector needs to be restarted.
No. Here,
No?
we can restart the computer. This is coming out of your thing, though. Let's just try and.
Yeah, the whole screen is off, you see?
Yeah, I don't know.
The tech displays, yeah. Just like that. This should work. Okay. Just go to this one.
Yeah, I don't know why. Now
Nice
it's
source to switch input.
It's VGA. Oh, this is why. Here we go. See if it goes. Fuck.
There we go. Perfect. Okay.
Now you can try it again.
I'll just
See if
skip
your video-
that.
You want to try and see if
No,
your video
no.
works? Okay.
So, okay, sorry about that. So I prefer the term, as you could gather, unmanned aircraft systems, or the ICAO version, remotely piloted aircraft systems. It makes much more sense. What is really, really crucial is that, you know, there's a history of this segment of aeronautics that is 100 years old. Nikola Tesla filed, actually more than 100 years old, but specifically Nikola Tesla filed this patent 613809 on teleautomations and demonstrated remotely controlled boats in the Central Park in 1893 already. And in 1900s, he actually designed a wireless unmanned airship. There is a long, long history that did not start, you know, in Vietnam with the target drones. It's a history that goes way back to the beginning of aviation. And this is where there are very, very serious issues, in my opinion, of how the industry is regulated, not only, of course, in this country, but mostly all around the world. And it's a cultural problem more than a regulatory problem by now, because we know that automation, of course, exists in contemporary aircraft. It exists so much that people forgot how to fly, as we have seen from few recent incidents and accidents. And that's something that the industry should also focus on, because we are dealing with this kind of automation on a daily basis. Now, the history then goes back to 1914. It's 100 years now of the Hewitt-Sperry automatic airplane. This was the first unmanned aircraft system. It was not a very, very successful machine, but it did fly. And it had an incredible accuracy of 3 miles in 150 kilometers. So it sort of flew in a general direction, we could say, where it was supposed to go. And this is how this machine looked like. Then there was the Kettering bug, the Dayton Wright Liberty Eagle, 120 kilometers range, 180 pounds of explosives, sort of a flying bomb. 45 were produced and none used. Does it sound familiar? Anybody here read Augustine's Laws recently? There's definitely something to learn from that. And it had a very substantial failure ratio. So people actually built these machines. The industry was sort of part of it. This existed much earlier than, the general sort of literacy of the media environment and everybody that is talking about unmanned systems would lead us to believe. There is also a very, very strong cultural component connected to the Van Nuys radioplane company in Southern California, which at the time, of course, now it's a little bit sadder, but not so bad, was the center, you could say, one of the major centers of world's aerospace industries. The OQ-2 radioplane was built there during the Second World War. 15,000 were built. They were basically target drones, right, for Air Force training. And guess who was discovered in the radioplane factory? Some of you might know, of course, Norma Jane, aka Marilyn Monroe. She actually was building target drones in Van Nuys, and this is the first picture of her in the line, and that's how she was discovered by Hollywood, by the way. So there is a very interesting cultural sort of component and connection to our industry. Torpedo airships. So the idea was always to build something that you could put into harm's way without sort of a human presence on board. Not very different from what we've been hearing for the last 30 years now, when the actual robotic machines or remotely piloted ones have started to be used in the more modern wars. There is the first early success of this kind of system. We know then again the V1, of course, of Nazi Germany, but the first success was in 1939, was the Littopommi, a Finnish glide bomb, which was a bionic system. It was an autonomous system guided by a pigeon. It created so much havoc on the Northern Sea Soviet fleet. They sank 2 ships with it at the beginning of the Soviet invasion of Finland, that the Soviets never used their ships again in that war because it was so precise. It was designed by, it's a pretty, sad story with the pigeons, of course. It was designed by a Finnish engineer, and the pigeons were trained and conditioned sort of in a Pavlovian way to actually target ships at sea. Food came to them, right? So that was the idea. The name of this guy was Nakuri, and here's some actual photos of this early sort of work on that. And in the end, the actual sort of flying bomb looked like this. 3 pigeons were employed for navigation, XYZ. And hey, you didn't have MEMS accelerometers at the time. So, and it was actually used successful. This is the actual footage of the Soviet ship that was struck by one of these bombs. And this is a beautiful rendition of the engineer and his pigeons. So we have a history. It looks like it does, right? It's a very strange history in a way. The recent one you know a lot about, I'm sure. You hear about it every day when you say that you work in the unmanned systems industry. You are a drone person and labeled as such, or vilified by whoever, you know, thinks that, you know, robots are really, really bad for us, and doesn't understand how this evolution actually, you know, is going. So myself and my colleagues here, you've seen our booth, and there's other companies present, have been involved very early on in this industry, not so early as some of the pioneers, but still early enough so that we could really feel how much sort of lag there was in understanding of what we are doing in dealing with our regulators. I myself come from Slovenia. Our company is based there. And, you know, it's a pocket country. You have to understand that. Our FAA is 10 people, right? So imagine that. But still, even though it is a pocket country, we were able to do things that here you would have a lot of problems doing in the beginning. We were able to get our own segregated airspace very early on in the research phase of the project. We were able to start flying, but and we had insurance in 2007 and so on, but as, you know, things started developing and regulations started coming in place, we had 0 accident ratio in our operations. There was never an incident where the plane would fall off onto some field or wherever else where it was not supposed to be. But still, you know, now the regulators are coming back to us and they want us to resubmit the same thing. And then they want us to resubmit again and resubmit again. So this is exactly how, you know, these things work. And suddenly there's pilots present. Pilots who don't read NOTAMs, we noticed, right? Because we have NOTAMs, we publish them. But we also have a radio always with us on the field because people come in flying into our segregated airspace all the time, right? Even though we talk to the local aerodrome and tell them that we are doing these operations that day, they still are coming. Maybe they are curious to see what is going to replace them. I don't know. But it's definitely, you know, part of the culture. And nowadays, of course, we are faced with that. So we started as a research project of a Slovenian version of the DARPA. I have only 3 minutes, so I'm going to be very quick. In 2007, and the Bramor was born. The main designer is sitting here, Nate Strost. And you can talk to him later about the evolution of this blended wing body and how it all happened. But basically now we have aircraft flying all over the world, on really literally all the continents, even Antarctica. They are used for all the things that you've been hearing about in these days. There's 2 major sort of versions, the GEO for surveying, remote sensing purposes, currently being outfitted up in Canada with gas sensors, for example, for pipeline leak monitoring, and then the C4I system. My colleagues before showed beautiful examples of this kind of work that is being done with the systems like ours. What differentiates us from other systems in its class is, you know, it's the endurance, is the payload capacity. We can fly further for longer. We can have live video from the plane and, you know, day, night, the whole package. And it's cost effective, supposedly. So that's what I'm being told by the big guys. So we've worked in Antarctica. This is just some of the photos of our operations in the Arctic much earlier than NOAA. Actually, NOAA was fine in the Arctic. I was talking to NOAA people in Paris in 2006. Hey, we are doing work in the Arctic with unmanned systems. Would you like that we do something together? They were flying at the time the huge sort of pre-Predator version, what was this, Altos or something like that. But nowadays, of course, it's a different story, and hopefully we will be able to work together. So we've done a lot of work with ecological monitoring, bird counts in the Danube Delta. We were the only ones to successfully map the Chilean mine on 4,200 meters above sea level, and so there is a myriad of applications that are actually part of what sUSB is about. We integrate our solutions. You've seen yesterday our work down in Africa in the anti-poaching operation together with iRemote, and also you will hear about it in the next presentation with air electronics. We can fly in from minus 20 to 50 degrees Celsius. So a lot of things that we do. And I'll finish here, but these are two very, very important slides. Aerospace integration is something we are really, really not concerned, but actively working on. As a company, we want to be at the forefront of that debate anywhere we fly. The regulatory environment is, of course, very different. It's different in South Africa now. The South African CAA has gone crazy, and they, unmanned systems prohibited. Nothing happened. It's just things, people start talking. And Australia is much more organized, as you know, and I agree yesterday's example was, very unfortunate in the context of what we were talking about. But what we do is, we have NOTAMs, we try to sort of work within the regulatory environment that is at our disposal, and with the technologies that are in our disposal. There's an ADS-B transponder out there, we integrate it. We have 2 flying in New Zealand today. Everybody's very happy with them. Of course, when you will have 200,000 of them blinking on a radar screen somewhere, it's not going to be the same story, but for now, that's a solution. The crew is required to have a radio with them, binoculars, and an ADS-B receiver for situational awareness. But when you fly low, it's mostly you look around, it's the same as when you're flying in a manned aircraft. Fail-safe architecture, really, really important. You have seen we have a parachute. We use parachutes. Why? Because it's a field-proven system designed by, in the Renaissance, right? Sort of it has a historical record of efficiency. Of course, there's accidents, but different ones. So our system lands with a parachute. That's what we do. Mandate parachutes in all these little drones. DJI can integrate one in their Phantom. We can tell them how to do that if they don't know, and you're going to have much less crazy accidents and so on once the parachute is deployed in any kind of unusual attitude of these small systems. That should be regulated and mandated. If you fly over populated areas, parachute is mandatory. That's my suggestion, but nobody is going to listen to it. Thank you.